Yikes, Jamie, it sounds like you've had a rough morning there. Sorry about that. Things get better for you today. I know that it's early, right? Plenty of time to reverse that around, but thinking of you today. Hello, everyone. I've seen all your comments about the cold, snow. Downtown Louisville is cold. Thank you so much. I think it's Marla. I think it's Marla that sent that in. Thank you, Marla. Appreciate it. All right, good morning, guys. Wave meteorologist Brian Good on this snowy, cold setup, frigid actually setup here into Wave Country on this Tuesday, January the 16th, which you guys know is coming up now on the 30th anniversary of what happened in 1994. Everyone has a story on how that played out for them. For me, you probably have heard me talk about this several times because this was the 16th was a Sunday in 1994. It was my first day at the Kroger in Fern Creek as a bag boy. And what a first day it was. I remember everyone was parked on the road on Bartstown Road because you cannot fit into the Cedar Springs shopping center there in Fern Creek. And no one had a Bass card available to get if you came to the store. Everyone had one in their hands. And we took the checkout lanes in between the aisles of the store all the way into the meat deli and to the seafood department. It was the only way we can get the checkout lanes to get through, which meant no one could really get to the aisles to shop. Talk about chaos. A grocery store is a perfect meter to measure that. And as you guys know, we ended up with a forecast. I think it's the only time in television that I've ever witnessed all stations were running a crawl on TV, telling everyone to basically relax, that the snowfall will be 1 inch or less. And it's because the afternoon data came in with a lot of warm air. The issue was very similar to what we've got on the map today, and that is a very intense, cold, unusually cold Arctic air mass that was diving down at the same time. And that was the catalyst in the modeling, is that the idea of heavy freezing rain would allow for there to actually be a dynamic cooling event to allow for heavy rain to go over to heavy snowfall. And that's what led to the 15.9 inches of snow on the morning of the 17th, 1994. And that was one of the lower totals. There were several spots over 24 inches. That was followed by the coldest Louisville's ever been, 22 below zero. I believe the wind chill alerts that we had for that. I remember walking down Old Shepherdsville Road near Fern Valley and seeing a semi that was jackknifed near the Provo right there at Fern Valley and Old Shep. And the military were roaming the streets. National Guard were there controlling everything because we just had no way to get around. And the wind chill was roughly about 50 below zero at that time. Incredible event. And while, yes, this one certainly gets the attention of a lot of people, we really are not to the extreme of what we had 30 years ago. But it certainly reminds us that to be humble in these forecasts, right? To always keep in mind of the challenges they got, and that modeling is not always not as perfect. But you know what? The models have come a long way. We only had like 3 to choose from in 1994. Now we have like 15 or 20. So data being available at our fingertips has gone up tremendously compared to what we had back then. So that's good. That's good. All right. So let's talk about what is ahead of us here. And on the snowboard today, and I'll get to some of your comments and questions if you have any coming up in a few minutes. As always, you guys can share your stories too of 94 because your friends are in the chat with you. So no problem with you guys sharing all that, because it's always interesting to hear about all the storm. Yes, thank you. Real quick, Michelle, that movie that just came out recently, right? It's The Ordinary Angels, about the little girl and the nursing team. I believe that came out in the past year. I could be wrong, but I thought it did. Maybe it's been a few years now, maybe for the 25th anniversary, but I feel like it was recent. All right, so let's get into the snowboard for today. Where do we stand on the upcoming system arriving here Thursday and Friday? Well, it's likely to be mostly snow. There is a little bit of a overlap where we could get a little bit of rain that may try to mix in, but I don't think that's going to be a factor. If we did not have the current setup, snow on the ground, Arctic air mass, and going into this, I would say, yes, this is a rain to snow setup. We don't have that. This is a different equation now being played out for the system. So it's likely to be majority snow, and it will likely cause impacts. So the alert days are out already for Thursday evenings commute into Friday. And I think it's going to snow at least lightly throughout much of the day on Friday. So got a feeling we'll have more closures or NTIs that will be issued later this week if this trend continues, because this system is going to be very similar to what we just had, but a little more of an impact in the Louisville metro and parts of Indiana than what the last one did. So a little bit of a different look to it, but very similar as far as some of the higher totals being about where they were on this last one. And then we get into next week. Remember, anytime you come out of an Arctic air mass and you got an approaching system, you've got to be aware that the cold air is going to be slow and heavy, doesn't want to take some time to get out of the way. So there is a chance to get moisture that would begin to increase at some point Monday night or Tuesday. There is a chance there could be a brief mix with that before we go over to all rain, which it will go over to all rain. The likelihood of that is extremely high. So don't hit that comment. Sorry, I got a spammer. Been really bad lately. They're taking advantage of you guys because it's busy with snow. They're trying to sell you everything. So trying to get this out of there. All right, so don't click on that stuff. Anyway, there's a brief mix. Worry about it later. We got to figure out how much of the snow will fall here as far as depth goes for the end of the week, and obviously the cold Arctic air following this one, and that'll help gauge next week. But at least want to mention it. That's something that we are monitoring even after this is over with. All right, our snow stats. We've only had a trace of snow in Louisville officially in the past 24 hours, including even this morning. It's actually flurrying here at the station right now in downtown while the sun is out at times. So kind of a partly cloudy sky with flurries. We are standing at 1.5 for our season total. Normal is 13.4. Still got some time to make it up. Nashville came in at 7.8, by the way, for Nashville. That is more than what they normally would have for an entire winter, so they're done in their minds. This lines up well with what we had out for the winter outlook from Halloween, thinking that we're going to get these Arctic air masses, and then you're going to get these high risk here for winter storms and snow, especially on that arc side on the southern portion of that. That still stands for likely the next few weeks into February. More on that coming up in a few minutes on the outlook there. Then good old Bardstown. Got snow on the ground there. You guys, on the average, have been roughly about 3 to 4 inches in our southern counties. You get down a little further to Adair County, Russell County area. We're seeing totals a little more closer to about 7 that have been showing up. And then in Louisville, my house, I ended up with 1.5 actually at my house. But I even just traveling 10 miles or 10 minutes, even from my house, it really dropped off heading into the city of Louisville. So it certainly was a southern Jefferson Bullet issue on that snow the other night. Current temperature outside 11 in Louisville. We got 9 into Bardstown, Campbellsville, down into Columbia. The wind chill is the main concern we've had today, especially that breeze that's showing up at times. Not to the point of a dangerous level as far as advisory. We were close. A -10 is advisory level. We got -9 showing up in Jasper there, -4 in Louisville, -6 as you head into Fort Knox. Some of the sensors in central Kentucky don't always register those wind chill values. Just be aware of that. But you get the idea. Cold, exposure to skin is the main issue. Just limit your time. Certainly, if you're going to be out there for a good 30-minute window, prepare. All right, make sure that everything's covered up as much as you can. We will try to come out of this a bit more this afternoon with some sun as we end this afternoon, but it's going to be still very cold, frigid setup today. Better opportunity to get to the freezing mark as we head into tomorrow, at least closer to it. Keep in mind, as we get to the freezing mark, starting or close to it tomorrow and again on Thursday before we get into the next wintry mass, if you do have at least a light snow covering on the road, there will start to be melting that will happen. Even with a sunny setup in 30 degrees, the snow will start to melt, especially in the downtown area, and it will begin to seep back out in the streets, and then we'll go back below freezing again. So watch out for the refreezing idea and black ice that can form over the next couple of nights. Even if we are showing you temperatures that are getting above freezing during the day, it doesn't mean there may still be slick spots toward a sunset. Very common to see that around here. So use some caution as we head through the next couple of days, even though overall the weather will be quiet today and tomorrow. Really going to be interested to see this visible satellite once we get these low-level clouds out of the way. Once they break up here soon, we should be able to see fairly clear on where the snow is on the ground across Ohio Valley. Should be a very interesting looking map. It's going to take a few more hours to get there. But we're winding down. This system is off to the east, giving some snow still for eastern areas of Kentucky. Again, a few flurries out there today just because it's so cold. Very typical to get any amount of moisture, even a small amount of moisture, to allow for there to be a few flurries flying around. Okay, so what about this Thursday, Friday ordeal? Again, we're fine today, fine tomorrow. Thursday morning, fine. Thursday midday looks fine. Thursday afternoon into the rush hour period, that is when we have a two-prong system. Still some questions on how this is going to play out on the overall theme of the two, but the first one will be the main driver on moisture. The second one's going to be an idea of duration on snow. The two together are key on overall snowfall amounts, not only placement, but certainly on amounts because of the duration idea. So the first one here that develops Thursday afternoon, since temperatures are going to be closer to 32 or so when this arrives, this is going to be a much higher content snow. This is a wet snow initially, bigger flakes compared to what we just saw. This is the pretty snow that everyone likes. It sticks to everything. This will start to move across Memphis into Nashville as we head into Thursday afternoon. Just north and east of it, that is where you're going to get those bigger flakes or break out. Once again, it's near the same spots that are dealing with snow on the ground and did on this last one. So central Kentucky stands to see that first. And this is roughly 2 or 3 o'clock. We'll start to see it break out with, again, bigger flakes. Again, this is where you can get a good 1 to 2 inches of snow even out of this round, even though it's not going to last very long. It's just got a much higher moisture content, so it'll allow for the potential to get up there on some of those accumulations, and it'll certainly make things slick into the afternoons. Hold on one second. I got to delete another comment. Yeah, these spammers. All right. I think I got it. Let's see. Double check. Did I get it? All right, I got it. Okay, good. Once that passes by, there is the second piece, number 2, that will move in. And it basically is moving way faster than this first one is. So there's going to be a collision or a phasing that will eventually happen here. But where? How fast does it happen? Because eventually it just collides right into this and moves in as we head into Friday. Some of the models collide everything or phase everything together a little more to the east. Hold on a second. Maria is driving me crazy here with the spam. Okay. Hopefully she doesn't send another spammer or a bot that's in the system here. So I apologize. The two will collide in phase as we head into Thursday into Friday. This is different. The second piece is coming with Arctic air. Therefore, there will be less amounts of moisture, but more bang for your buck because we'll be colder. So this is a higher ratio snow as we head into Friday. So it's 2 different types of snow here. One will be the wet snow that moves in Thursday afternoon and night. It can make things fairly slick. And again, it'll stick to everything. So it'll look a little different than this most recent dry snow that really didn't stick to trees at all. It's all on the ground or not. As it moves by, then we get the dry snow on top of that will begin to blow around. So you got 2 different types, which is interesting. Not easy to make a snowman or a snowball out of still because you'll have the dry fluffy on top of this. So it'd still be a challenge if you dig in deep. Maybe you can get into that wet snow accumulation a little more. But this is going just to cause, though, a combination that's not good for travel because now you're going to get a good layer of that wet snow that easily goes to slush and then becomes ice. A lot easier than the dry snow. Dry snow blows around a lot. It does compact and make things slick, but wet snow that will then freeze to ice. Then you get a layer on snow on top of it. The only saving grace to that is it gives you a bit more traction on your tires to get around when you have that more grainy type of snow on top compared to the wet snow. So that's at least somewhat good, but still it's going to be quite slick with this type of setup with temperatures dropping so fast. This second piece, though, with it lingering long as it does there on your Friday, will allow for a very snow globe setup there on Friday before it winds down. And then we're just in the deep freeze as we head into Friday night and Saturday night, especially. The modeling. Well, the HER model, by the way, can't see this event entirely. That's why it's blank. The NAM already starts to see it just now. And it's similar on it. I think the NAM did fairly well in this last one, by the way. But I think it's similar on the idea of the placement being similar to the central Kentucky and southeast sections of wave country here. The graph model or in-house model was quite aggressive. It was a little too aggressive with the last event that we had where it was actually spitting out more than half a foot for Louisville. So the idea of it being really aggressive on these totals is probably too high. But placement is similar in idea of it being central Kentucky. I think it's underplaying, though, Indiana. I think Indiana will have more than what is shown there. I like what the GFS is doing. I think it may look like that, a backwards C type of setup for the map where there will be a band of snow across central and southeast sections there, wave country. And then you got the second piece as we head into Friday. There is still some wiggle room here where there's a bit of displacement on how the two will interact in phase. So the snow map, as far as how we're going to draw it, is going to vary. I don't know if we're to that point yet, to be honest with you, because we're still seeing a high variance on that. If the two merge a little more and phase a little more faster than what is indicated, it will be a fairly uniform looking map on totals. But because it's a 1-2 type of deal, they're close together on time enough that this is one event that we'll classify it as, but with a bit of 1-2 punch, that is going to create two different maximums or zones there on snowfall potential. So a bit of a challenge that we've got on drawing the snow map, but we'll worry about that as we get a little closer. The Euro, kind of a blend of the two ideas where it's got the better potential. Once again, the same spots just got hit, but a little more generous on the idea of the second piece, giving areas that got missed this last time at least some snowfall. The GFS ensembles, which I like showing this. I think this really helps showing the challenges at the same time. This is your scale. It's the black line is the median there of the totals, and it's coming in at roughly about a 1 to 2 inch type of consensus in the middle. Got some higher members that go over that, some obviously lower, but there's quite a bit of clustering that's happening right there in that 1 to 2, 1 to 3. I think a 1 to 3 inch or 1 to 4 inch type of forecast for a lot of you that are watching is fair. If anyone's going to get over that 4-inch mark, that is likely going to be in spots where we're going to see the two phase more overlap more. And I did check, there is actually a probability that's issued for that. This is from the Weather Prediction Center on the chance that you could exceed the forecast potential and get to 4 inches or more, or by definition, a winter storm as we go by here into our area for 4 inches. And the probability is low. It's slight, but it does include, at least Louisville's in that, and includes the area where, again, you have that first piece and second piece combination that could allow for some of the totals to exceed that limit. The probability is low, but it's not zero. It's not zero. And we weren't in it at all for this last one. So, hey, that's something. We'll take it. And hopefully with it being the end of the week, maybe you don't have to travel at all and not have to worry about this mess. That would be really, really nice, right? Snow ratios will be key. We talked about this a lot, about how we get more bang for your buck on the amount of moisture in the air. This is an example of that. This is not exactly the forecast, but I want you to get the idea of the challenge that we got there because the ratios will be changing. Say 1/10 of an inch of liquid. If you were to equate that to just a 10-to-1 ratio on the average that we have, it's 1 inch of snow at 28 to 34 degrees. You get to 20 to 27 degrees, your ratio goes to 15-to-1. Therefore, that same amount of liquid, that 1/10 of an inch of liquid on the far left, then becomes 1.5 inches of snow. And then you increase the ratio, you go all the way up to 3 inches of snow out of the same amount of liquid as you get colder. That's why temperature is important here. And that's why it was in this last one with the cold Arctic air. We knew we were going to be in a single digits, but how is that going to translate? Because that's even beyond, in some cases, what we have listed here. How would that translate on snow totals? And that was the biggest issue we got with this most recent event. This one has its challenges because we will likely be at about a 10 to 12-to-1 ratio when it arrives. And then we're going to increase it to a 15-to-1 as we head into that night, into the day on Friday. So that's a reason why we'll have to start to take the same amount of moisture and begin to inflate the total a bit on the end portion of this. And that's where the challenge is going to be on drawing the snow map. So expect some changes to this as we get a better idea. Temperatures are crucial, though. If these numbers end up being off at all, that is going to change the snowfall forecast. And just with high res, just not able to see this event, it wouldn't surprise me that still happens. All right. If you're good on this, type 23714 if you're good. 23714 if you're good. Let's see. Warren County this morning. Hi, Lisa. Hope all's well. Hope John's well. I know you guys got a decent amount down there, right? Like 3 or 4 inches. Let's see. Tom, this is for next weekend. This is for this week. This is Thursday night and Friday. 23714. Hey, you guys got good memory. I love doing this because when people watch these videos back, but they usually just see the comments first, they're like, what in the world? Why was everyone typing 23714? So I could tell who watched live and who didn't. Let's see. Is the probability the fronts colliding? Not really colliding, as more just the phasing. It's similar, but it's two low pressures that are we're talking about. Better potential is east of 65, actually toward I-75 for that phasing. But if it happens earlier, that changes things a little. This is not one that's going to get out of control, but I do think it's one that has a much greater impact on travel across just about everyone watching. So it may not be the big one that everyone's like, oh, it's the big one, right? It's not really that kind of a scenario, but it is one that I think snow lovers will be happy with. Travelers, likely not so much. Rebecca, how will the roads be on Saturday? Not great. Not great. We're going to go back to single digits. In fact, if we get more than 2 or 3 on the ground, we're going to go to 0 Saturday night with wind chills again about 10 below. So we're back to that whole storyline all over again this weekend if we get the snow on the ground. So it's not going to be great on travel for really Thursday night. Friday won't be great. And Saturday certainly will just be a frozen tundra again on Saturday. Sunday will start to improve, and then we'll get into the setup for next week. Northern Kentucky on the next system. Carroll County, you're in a spot where you're going to get the majority of the second piece, not so much the first one, but still, I think, again, 1 to 2, 1 to 3 is a good bet for a lot of you watching. The potential to go higher than on the spikes is going to depend on the track and the phasing of this and whether or not the duration gets extended longer into Friday. Then we may have to add a little bit more onto that. But I don't know on placement yet on that. So you're going to have to just stay tuned. It's only Tuesday. I get to see you guys again tomorrow, and we can go through it again and see what it looks like. And even on Thursday, we'll be talking. So there's still time for us to kind of explain and get the details out. But just be aware of just travel impacts Thursday night for Friday and even Saturday as well. So if you don't have to venture out, then there you go. Real quick on next week, I mentioned the Arctic air mass. The model's, again, too fast usually on pushing this out of here. So we just need to watch when moisture tries to move in, which will be Monday night and Tuesday. Moisture will try to increase. Could be something wintry in the very beginning of that. Otherwise, yes, next week it is rain we're talking about. And then we open up a whole other ordeal. Rain, potentially heavy rain that may try to form as we get into a warmer setup with 50s, maybe even a 60-degree day next week. It's possible. But now we're going to be dealing with heavy rain, and with a frozen ground, snow melt, and heavy rain. Now we have to talk about one of our favorite weather elements of all, and that is flooding. Next week will be a topic that will come into play. So that's something we're watching. So are the hydrologists in the Ohio Valley trying to figure out how that will play out. But we got to get through these events first. But that will probably be the next storyline. And I know you're going to ask, what about the cold weather? Is it going to come back again in the extended? Well, I think we'll get more rain to snow setups, kind of like we were before this all started, which I know snow lovers are like, well, that's boring. But once we get into the second or third week there of February, which, by the way, this year, February is a leap year, we may get back into another colder setup and snowier one. But that's still maybe. I got more data to look at, but I think we'll be okay to reset things, at least in the short term, for that. So there you go. That's where we stand today, guys. Try to stay warm best you can there. It's just frigid out there, right? But hey, at least we'll get some sun today, and we'll be a little closer to freezing mark tomorrow. We'll be talking more about how this Thursday night and Friday waves come in. In fact, new data is rolling in as I'm talking to you guys. Let me go look at it. I'll let you know if anything significant is showing up on midday. See you then.